Good morning guys, and welcome to my unboxing and review of the Zeta Plus Unicorn version. This kit released in 2016, I don't know if you can see that on the box, and I got it for $36 on Premium Bandai. This might be the oldest kit that I will ever take a look at on this channel. It's definitely the oldest one I've built so far. Don't let that 2016 date fool you, it is $36 for a reason. As far as I'm aware, as far as I can tell, this kit is basically just a recolor of the Zeta Plus A1, which came out in 2001. This kit is 24 years old, and it's a recolor in the Zeta Plus C1 colors. The Zeta Plus was, I believe it was in Gundam Sentinel, and it was Karaba, which is the Earth equivalent of Ayug. It was their attempt to create a mass production Zeta before Anaheim would create the MG Zeta in Char's Counterattack. I'm also getting that kit probably in a couple of weeks, but for now, here's the Zeta Plus. The A1 was meant for in-atmosphere use, and instead of its typical color scheme of white and orange, it uses the C1's color scheme of this kind of monotone gray. So the main difference between the A1 and the C1, apart from where they were intended to be used in lore, is their loadout. The A1 comes with a very typical kind of Gundam loadout, with a shield, a beam rifle, beam sabers, and I think it has like a short beam rifle or like a waist cannon or something. The C1 also has that waist cannon, but it replaces the standard loadout with a beam smart gun, which I believe replaces both the rifle and the shield on the C1. But we're taking a look at the A1 today, and I believe the original kit also came with some special decals because Amuro used one of the suits. I believe I remember seeing that it had the distinctive Amuro A logo that's on the new Gundam on that version of the A1. I don't think this one has it. As far as I can tell, this is just a recolor with some new waterslide decals, but very standard Premium Bandai style box in monotone gray. So, cracking it open. Very nice old style manual here. This is the manual that came with the original Zeta Plus. You can see the Amuro logo there. Very nice painted full color spread on the back. Kind of diorama. In full painted spreads. You can tell it's because it still has that baby blue faded background. Yeah, it's kind of a shame that we don't really get these anymore, including full info spreads on the suit, all in Japanese, of course. You get some very nice exploded views of all the different parts of the suit. We also get this insert for the decal guide for this recolor. Some slightly different build instructions for the legs and the rifle. And it looks like you might actually get a couple of new runners in this, judging from this section of the back, but take a look at that. And as for the runners, as for the bags, we get eight bags of runners, and inside of those bags, 19 runners, as well as this bag of screws, being a build from 24 years ago. This does use screws to help tighten up some of the joints, so we'll see how those work. This long power cable, like shoelace type material that was used in like the Gundam Mark II, and recently I took a look at the F90s that used that. This color correcting sticker sheet, a lot of this is what you would expect with like foil stickers for the eyes and cameras. Also this white color correcting sticker and this like yellow color correcting sticker, and this sheet of sticker style decals. It's kind of a shame that we don't get water slides, considering this is a Premium Bandai kit, but hey, we'll see how this looks on the kit. As for the runners themselves, so these runners were printed in November of 2024. Runner A here, reused from the original Zeta Plus, is a multicolor runner in 3 different colors. That is kind of Zeta Plus C1 gray color, yeah, clear for the head, and a dark blue for the feet and some miscellaneous parts here. All right, runner B1 in that same dark gray from runner A. Also from the original Zeta Plus, you see a pilot figure here, standing and sitting, some parts for the wings, for the legs, and parts for the head. Runner B2, which is a completely different runner and like chopped off from the same Mega Runner to fit in the box. Some more parts in that same gray, parts for the antenna and the wings and the nose cone. Runner C here, in black ABS for some frame parts, and you see parts of the landing gear here. I actually had to consult the manual to figure out which runner this was because it's not labeled anywhere on the runner. Runner D in black PS plastic for some more frame parts for the skirts and other parts. Runner E in more gray plastic for parts for the shoulders and legs. Runner F in the same gray which we get two of for some more armor parts. 2 of runner G in black ABS for some more frame parts. This small runner H wood in gray for some, I think that's like power piping or wires, and some miscellaneous parts. Runner H2, mostly parts for the beam rifle. Runner I in gray, for what looks to be mostly parts for the to help facilitate the transformation to the Wave Rider form. Being a very old master grade, this is a polycap build using PC-122 for this huge sheet of polycaps. SB1 for a standard pair of 1/100 beam effect parts in this blue. Alright, and very surprising, there are some new runners for this kit, so it isn't just a strict recolor. Here are some parts for the beam rifle in this kind of black plastic. You can see this is not from the Zeta Plus. I'm not quite sure what it's from. I'll throw it up on screen now. And as you can see, this runner was designed in 2010, not the 2001 that all the other runners were from. Runners L1 and L2 for some slightly different parts. You see for the, I believe these are like skirt parts or wing parts. And you have a different antenna here. I believe if you want to make the A2 using the high mega cannon. And runner K2 in white for some miscellaneous kind of detail parts for like the outside of vents and things like that. So with all the runners out of the way, I will see you after the build. Alright, welcome back. Here's the completed Zeta Plus A1 Unicorn version. So the build for this kit was a little unorthodox. Well, first off, this kit is panel lined, decaled up with the included sticker style decals, and then coated using Mr. Hobby premium flat style top coat. Now the build for this was kind of weird. I don't know how much of it is because this is a Zeta kit and how much it is that it's 24 years old. But this kit, the build order was a little weird. Like modern kits, you either build from like the feet up in like real grade kits, or most other kits you build the torso, then the head, then the limbs, and then the waist, and then assemble. This kit, you start with the limbs, and then you build the head, and then there's a whole neck assembly that the head goes on. Then you build the torso and the waist together; they're like attached. And then the wing binders and the big like stabilizer thing on the back, and then the weapons. This kit is also a polycap kit, so I was expecting, because I've built the Master Grade, a straight red frame, the Zaku 2, the Exia, all of those use them polycaps how you would expect, in like, just as like connector parts for parts on the limbs, or like the feet into the legs, like those things, so you just connect the parts with them. Not this kit. This kit uses them extensively, most egregiously on the legs. Like a lot of the armor parts that you see on the legs are just attached into polycaps that are sticking out of the very nicely detailed inner frame, which is weird, and it makes them feel a little less stable, a little more loose than you would like. This kit also uses screws. There are 4 screws in this kit, all 4 of them in the knees to kind of tighten up the articulation. Even with them, this kit does feel a little loose in the legs. This kit's build is also a little strange in that there's a little too much part separation and not in the places you would want. For instance, on the kind of inner part of the leg, as this spins around, you'll see this vent detail inside is actually 2 parts for no reason. It could have just been 1 part, and instead it's 2 parts, which leaves an extra seam line for you to clean up. The connector for the thigh cannons into the leg is also 2 parts sandwiched together. There's just a lot of weird part separation where there doesn't need to be. And that just leads to an excess of seam lines and kind of jank in building this kit that there really didn't need to be, and you can tell that they've learned this lesson 24 years later. Keep in mind that this, like, a lot of this isn't super relevant for most kits, but it is for this one because they are selling it like as is, because again, this kit was printed last year, and they sold this on P-Bandai. So for aesthetics, this kit is a little weird. I think especially because of the lack of traditional skirting. The only real skirting part, as you can see, is that fixed back skirt there. Apart from that, the side skirts are replaced with the thigh cannons, and there aren't really front skirts. There's just kind of like a reinforcing brace attached to the thigh cannons. But because of that, this kit appears a lot more leggy than it actually is. Like the actual Zeta doesn't really look this leggy, and their proportions don't look this jank because there are skirts kind of obscuring exactly where the legs connect into the waist. But apart from that, I think this kit's very interesting in how it combines kind of aspects from the Zeta and the Hyakushiki, as you can see from the wing binders there. it's definitely very unique, very fittingly Zeta-esque with those power pipes on the backs of the legs. There's also a lot of very nice power piping detail in the thigh cannon and in the connector for the thigh cannon to the leg. A lot of this like geometry is very nice. The way the torso kind of slopes downward with the venting is very unique. The included decals are very nice. Most of the stickers on the foil sticker sheet aren't really super intrusive, and we'll go over them very quickly. There's a lot of nice color separation. I do want to note that for parts like, I believe on the legs here, and the chest vents, some of them are new, but a bunch of them are reused from the Zeta Plus C1, and I did find out that the rifle is reused from the Master Grade Rizel, which matches in lore that the Zeta Plus A1s still in service at the time of Unicorn were standardized to use the Rizel beam rifle, because before they were just using, I think they were the only units left still using that standard Zeta beam rifle. Getting into the stickers, sticker 1 for this eye sticker here, kind of half obscured by the head sculpt, giving this really nice mean glare that I really like. Sticker 2, you get 2 of, one for the front head camera here, and another one for this alternative antenna piece that we'll go over in the accessory section. Sticker 3 is kind of hard to see. I have to tilt the head. But it's for this back head camera. I said you have to be careful because you can't tilt the head too much, otherwise the assembly starts going down into the chest for the transformation, which is part of the jank. We'll go over that in articulation. Yeah, sticker 4. You get 2 of on this shield nose cone piece for the Wave Rider, 1 on each side. Sticker 5 is on the Rizel beam rifle for this camera piece. Sticker 6 back on the shield. It's kind of hard to see, but it's in there. It's this large semicircular piece. Sticker 7 is this wraparound white sticker that this Zeta Plus decal is on. And sticker 8 on this back stabilizer piece, this yellow wraparound sticker, which so that yellow wraparound sticker on the stabilizer is one of the nicer ones I've used. I haven't really run into any problems with it, which is surprising. It just kind of goes on and looks okay, especially with the big EFF decal on top. It does look fine. The wraparound white sticker on the shield, you should probably paint in because it doesn't fully wrap around the front. And leaves a little bit of gray exposed, which looks a little strange. Getting into accessories. Alright, so here's the Zeta Plus Unicorn version with everything that comes with it. These 2 beam sabers in a very dark gray, almost black color. These have a very nice sculpt to them, and they're just kind of basic beam sabers. They do what you want beam sabers to. When not in use, they are stored on the inside of the leg. To go with these beam sabers, of course, we have SB1 100 beam saber effect parts in blue. These can also be used with the rifle, because famously the Zeta has the long beam saber where it uses the rifle as a big beam saber, almost beam spear kind of weapon. These landing gear pieces for when it's in Wave Rider mode. Notably, this being a super old kit, this does not come with an action base adapter or any kind of peg hole or anything to mount to an action base, so you're going to have to use like the fork on an action base. If you don't want to use the action base, you have these landing gear pieces. This big shield thing that also acts as the nose cone when it's in Wave Rider mode. It just kind of clips onto onto the side of the arm, or onto the back of the arm, using this peg. It just clips onto the back of the arm using this peg here. And the Rizel's beam rifle here in this very nice navy blue, very nice color separation for this pipe piece. The E-pack on the back is detachable, and you can put a beam saber effect into the end here to use for the long beam saber effect, and of course the handle folds in to mount onto Wave Rider mode, or it can also be mounted for storage onto the side of the wing binders. We have this standing generic pilot figure without any kind of base, so you have to glue it onto something, otherwise he's not really going to stand up on his own. One of the many good changes that Master Grades have done, these come on little stands, so you can actually stand them up. And then finally, for antenna pieces, we have this alternate piece that you can just use normally, or you can use, you're supposed to use it when it's transformed to Wave Rider mode because these antenna parts are made of PE plastic, like polycap material, and fold up. And then you have this antenna piece to make it into the Zeta Plus A2. Literally the only difference is this antenna piece, replacing the standard head camera with the high mega cannon seen on the double Zeta. Notably, this is kind of very useless on the A1 in particular because I think in universe, in atmosphere, the high mega cannon's accuracy is greatly diminished. So, or not, the efficacy is greatly diminished. So there isn't really a point to using it. I will do the double Zeta high mega cannon pose with this, but I'm not going to be using this. I'm going to have it in Wave Rider mode when I put it on the shelf. On the kit itself, of course, you have this standard head camera rigid antenna part, and on the hand, and these are the only hands you get. It's these really old master grade style hands where thumb is on a ball joint, index fingers on a peg, and the other 3 fingers are also on a peg. And notably, this is, in my opinion, the worst part of the kit. These hands don't have a peg or a hole or anything to help grip weapons, so their weapons are just kind of floating loosely in the hand, which is also why I want to have this in Wave Rider mode when I put it on the shelf, so I don't have to deal with having it hold onto the hand, or have it hold onto the rifle very loosely. For unofficial accessories, you have 2 spare E-packs for the Rezel beam rifle. Well, they don't really have anywhere to store them, so just throw these into the box and maybe you can find a use for them later. But the big unofficial accessory that comes with this kit, or I guess formerly official accessory, of course, is the Zeta Plus's original beam rifle, the Zeta style beam rifle with this very unique E-pack shape on the back, this thin kind of power cable up top, in almost entirely like inner frame gray, which is pretty color inaccurate. For the most part, this kit is color accurate with the additional parts from the C1 and the new parts, but I believe the Hyaku Shiki uses this same beam rifle, and this part is supposed to be in like a navy blue. It's not, it's just in gray. Oh, and speaking of color accuracy, I did paint the center part of the high mega cannon in white. It's supposed to be painted white. It's just molded in all gray, as you saw from the unboxing, and this middle part I painted in black. And for a quick size comparison, here it is next to a standard high grade being the high grade Blue Destiny Unit 1, and a standard master grade being the master grade Zaku 2 2.0. As you can see, being essentially like a mass production Zeta, almost like identical in appearance, at least, or not appearance, like in general, like proportions and height. This kit is fairly tall. I know the Zaku 2 is a little shorter compared to like an average Gundam, but still, this kit is going to take a more vertical space on the shelf if you have it in MS form, and you can see the legs themselves are as tall as a standard high grade. Moving on to articulation, I'm going to point out the articulation of this kit that is not tied to the transformation into Wave Rider mode, because, like, obviously, if you have this in mobile suit form, you're not going to want to pose it with the neck going down into the torso. It just looks kind of funky. But yeah, so the head can look up a little bit, about that far. Actually, it's quite nice. It can look down. Oh, there it goes, popping down into the torso again. It can look down not super far, which is kind of disappointing. You can rotate it a little bit. Yeah, you can rotate it some more, but eventually it will pop off the neck assembly, and it becomes very annoying to put back on because every time you try, it'll start going down into the torso, so don't expect to turn the head that far. The shoulders can rotate about the peg all the way. It can't really rotate up, but you have this flap that moves up and down to facilitate the arm going up. You can raise it about 90 degrees, full rotation at the upper bicep, double bend at the elbow for almost 180 degree bend, which is quite nice. Wrist is on a ball joint, which will do ball joint things. Thumb is on a ball joint. Index finger on a peg, and the other 3 fingers also on a peg. Fold into this kind of loose fist. I hate these these old master grade hands. They're very annoying to get to hold on to anything and look natural. Torso, it's being a transforming kit, don't expect much out of it. Pretty much no ab crunch to speak of. No side to side without kind of triggering the transformation mechanism, which I think is fine. You're not going to have this thing in like super dynamic poses anyway, considering it's that old. Even if it didn't have the transformation mechanism. Wing binders on the back will swing in and out. This wing part in the middle can rotate back. This whole assembly can kind of swivel a bit. This big stabilizer can swing out, but again, I don't know if you're really going to do that in mobile suit mode. The torso, seeing it like this in the hip is a one big assembly, so it can't really rotate either, which hinders the articulation. These thigh cannons can rotate up, as well as swing forward to shoot. The legs, seeing as there is no front skirt to speak of, can go all the way up. Side raise, not very far. Yeah, this is, by modern standards, this is abysmal. But this is a 24-year-old kid, you don't expect much out of it. Some rotation in the upper leg. A surprising full double bend at the knee, quite nice. This flap can move up and down. The foot can rotate back and forth quite a bit for a kind of a wide-legged standing firing pose. No toe articulation. The foot can swing up a little bit before colliding with the armor, and down a decent amount. So overall, articulation is quite limited, with some very nice points, notably in the elbows and knees. So let's get it up into some poses. So we have the Zeta Plus here in a bit of a spin, and trying to pose this thing, the first thing I notice is that it doesn't really pose. There's a lot of lack of articulation in this kit. I'm not sure if it's because of the age or to enable the transformation. My money's on the transformation, but this was the most, like, I guess, interesting pose I could get with it standing on the ground, which is not a good sign. I was trying to get in a kind of wide-legged two-handed firing pose with the rifle. Unfortunately, it can't really swing its arms. Like, there's no shoulder swing at all, like, forward. So it's hard to get the rifle support hand out in front of the gun while it's in any kind of firing pose. And the head can't really turn to look off to the side, even if it's firing at, like, because the only firing angle they can hold as, like, an extreme angle to the side. The head can't turn far enough without it popping like off the neck joint, and then putting it back on is a giant pain because the neck assembly slides into the torso, and it's just a whole mess. What also doesn't help is that it can't really do a one-handed firing pose supernaturally, because as you can see, the Rezel's beam rifle is extremely long, and the lack of any kind of peg or securing mechanism in the hand to hold the rifle means that it tends to slip or droop in those kinds of one-handed poses, which means it looks extremely awkward and it's very hard to get it in any kind of believable pose. Now, throwing it up on the fork and getting it on an action base, again, this isn't great. It's not much better than the ground version, especially because the leg articulation is also exceptionally limited. This was the most dynamic I could get it, and the legs don't really even swing outward. I was originally going to try and do one of, like, as per usual, like a seed-esque downward firing pose. It can't do it. The legs just flat out cannot swing out far enough. You can kind of detach the assembly it's on from the hip to get it to swing outward, but then it doesn't stay there because the assembly just kind of swings back down. So the most you can do is kind of a sort of forward flying pose, and you can't even do anything dynamic with the torso because it's built fused to the hip, so it can't even rotate at all to do any of that. And that's also extremely apparent in this kind of melee pose with both the nose cone shield and a beam saber. Unfortunately, the hands, the fists, the fingers don't really close tight enough to get a solid grip on the beam saber. No matter what I did, as soon as I started spinning, the beam saber would slip. Not that big an issue if you're just leaving it on the shelf, but for displaying it like here, I couldn't really get it to hold onto the saber itself, so right now you see it gripping onto part of the beam. I think the shield is also a little weird. It doesn't really cover that much, so it's not really doing its job as a shield. Most of it is in the nose, sticking out from the elbow, so I'm not quite sure how practical that is. It also doesn't look the greatest. But yeah, here it is holding the beam rifle and using it as a long beam saber. Unfortunately, my booth is too small to accommodate spinning it, so as you can see, it's colliding and just won't work. So yeah, here's just a still of it. But it's not the greatest. Like, it looks really cool, but again, the problems with the hand, the lack of arm articulation, you can't really hold it in any kind of believable attacking pose. So all you have is it just kind of limply holding the long beam saber out, like, it's just holding out in front of it, but the beam's going off to the side, so it's clearly not attacking anything. It's weird. Like, this kid is just not a good poser. And that's also very apparent attempting to do the double Zeta high mega cannon firing pose, also with the thigh beam cannons firing forward. It just can't get the arm out high enough. It doesn't look dynamic at all. The leg, it can swing backwards a little bit, but it can't swing out like to the side at all. So you have this like kind of, again, limp, awkward looking pose that just doesn't feel right. It's really cool that they included the high mega cannon to make the Zeta Plus A2 variant, but you can't really do anything with it, which is a big shame, because it look like the design, the actual aesthetics of this kit is quite nice. You probably noticed it earlier, but there's a lot of surface detail on this kit. It's a little shallow, so you might want to take like a scribing tool to it to make it a little deeper so the panel liner sits in it better. But it looks, the aesthetics is on point, like it looks great, which makes it even more of a shame that it can't pull off any dynamic poses. But good thing it's not stuck in mobile suit mode. Here it is in Wave Rider form, and it looks a million times better because it doesn't have any of the articulation problems. There isn't really any way to articulate Wave Rider mode. You just kind of have it sit there and look cool, and it does look very cool. Here it is with the landing gear out. As you would expect, very stable, looks great. Not really much to say. But I jammed the fork that I used to put on the action base sideways, and I was able to get it on the action base in a flying pose, which really, really helps. Because having to just on the landing gear is very boring. It already can't articulate itself in Wave Rider mode, so no reason to handicap it even more by bonding it to the ground. But yeah, this is a really, really cool look. This is a great version of the Wave Rider. I'm not the biggest fan of the giant, like, kind of chunky thing the Zeta has below it to kind of surf on. So this atmospheric, very, like fighter jet crossed with, like, a starfighter silhouette is really cool. I think it looks great. It's one of the better looking transformed flight modes I've seen. And even from the bottom, like, it looks solid because the giant beam shield cone thing is also shielding the head from being exposed on the bottom. So it doesn't really super look like a mech that is turned into a like fighter jet type thing. It looks like something that was designed as a fighter jet that just happens to be able to turn into a mobile suit, if that makes any sense. But yeah, in conclusion, this kit I cannot recommend. It is cheap for a master grade, and if you really like the aesthetics and you don't care about posing, you just want either standing there looking cool holding the rifle, or sitting in Wave Rider mode, which I'm having it on the shelf in Wave Rider mode right now, it's fine. Like, it looks good like that. If you want it to have any kind of dynamic posing, or if you want it as part of like a diorama with other mobile suits doing stuff, do not get this kit. You're better off just getting like a Zeta Verka or something, painting it up, maybe 3D printing some parts for like the thigh cannons or whatever, and just doing that, because this kit cannot pose. There were a lot of compromises made to it to make the transformation possible, like a full transformation, no parts forming necessary, which is admirable, but I don't think the sacrifices were worth it. You have no torso articulation. The arms can swing backwards but not forwards, which is very strange, but it also means you can't really hold the beam rifle in any kind of convincing way. The legs can barely articulate outside of the surprisingly nice knee bend and ankles. Like, the hips just don't do anything. So yeah, it looks great, but this kit certainly, it matches the lure, right? It's this like old dinosaur of a mobile suit or a kit that persisted to the modern day, or the unicorn era in universe, and it can't really keep up. They tried modernizing it in this kit you see with C1 parts and the Rezel's rifle, but it still doesn't match anything we have today. It's a cool like thing to build and experience just as like a time capsule for what gunplay used to be, but I cannot recommend buying it in the modern day. So that was my review of the Master Grade Zeta Plus Unicorn version. I will see you in a few days when I take a look at the Gym 3 Unicorn Desert Color version.